our topic for today is definition of terms. Tandaan na ang definition of terms ay optional lamang sa iyong paper. So, maaaring hindi mo siya i-include, but there are institutional formats na nire-require na mayroon talagang definition of terms because it helps reader to comprehend yung technical terms na nasa iyong paper. Now, ano nga ba ang definition of terms? It is also called as operational definition of variables or ODV. So the word operational here refers to how the word or the term was used in the study. At the same time, the variables are the elements essential to the study. So, napakasimple lang, i-define mo lang yung mga keywords or technical terms na ginamit mo sa iyong pag-aaral. Now, ang definition of terms maaaring maging conceptual definition or operational definition. The conceptual definition is the meaning of the term that is based on how it is defined in the dictionary, encyclopedia, or other existing literatures. So, ang conceptual definition, ito yung nakikita natin or nahanap nating definition mula sa mga credible sources. While the operational definition is the meaning of the term based on how it was used in the study. Operational definition, remember, is used when a term has a specific or unique meaning in the context of the study. Ginagamit ang operational definition kapag ang meaning nito ay iba sa kung paano mo ito gagamitin sa iyong pag-aaral. Example, the word trolled. If you're going to search for its meaning sa dictionary, that means carefully and systematically search an area for something. Pero kung gagamitin mo siya sa iyong paper as an action of a person who posts insincere, extraneous, or degrading messages in the online community, then yung meaning ng trolled ay dapat mong i-define gamit ang operational definition sa kung paano mo ito ginagamit sa iyong pag-aaral. Ito ay dahil sa kadahilan ng iba ang ibig sabihin ng salitang trolled sa dictionary compared sa salitang trolled as you would like to use it in your paper. Here are some examples of writing the definition of terms, specifically yung conceptual and operational definition. So, tingnan natin yung pagkakaiba nila. We are going to define same terms but different definitions. Now, so under conceptual definition, first example is face-to-face. It is when the people involved are being close together and looking directly at each other. Pero sa operational definition, yung face-to-face refers to one of the modalities used in learning delivery in which the teacher and students should be in the same place or setting such as the classroom. The word module, conceptual definition meaning, is any in a series of standardized units used together such as an educational unit that covers a single subject or topic. But now, in the operational definition, you may define module also as teaching modules, as guide of the topics and lessons of a specific subject given to students under the modular method. So, specific na ito ay pinapamigay under modular method. It is also an alternative distance learning delivery in which students are required to read and answer the activities specified in the module. Last example is the word online. We all know that online is controlled by or connected to other computer or network. So, yun lang yung conceptual definition niya. But in your paper, if you are studying the keyword online, then let the readers understand that it refers to another form of distance learning wherein the teacher and students will have their lessons using internet connectivity. So, hindi ka lang online, but you are using this modality in your distance learning. So, kung ang keyword mo or ang variable mo ay hindi naman naiiba sa kung paano ito dinedefine ng ibang studies, ng existing literatures and other sources, then there's no need to define it operationally. So, conceptual definition na lamang nito ang iyong ilalagay sa paper. There are also institutional formats na nagre-require na ang conceptual definition ay may cited source. Since ito ay inimport mo lang, kinuha mo directly from an existing literature or a specific source, then kailangan mong ilagay sino yung author or ano itong book, ano itong encyclopedia, ano itong dictionary na pinagkuhanan mo, and then kailan to na-publish. You have to specify. Now, let me share to you some guidelines on how to write the definition of terms. So, parehong ino-observe sa pagsulat ng conceptual definition at operational definition ang mga guidelines na ito. First, you have to write a brief introductory statement. It shortly describes the content of the definition of terms. So, one sentence lang, for example, this section defines conceptually and operationally the important variables in this study, and then nakabullet form na yung mga terms na i-define mo. Second, list or write the words or terms that would be included. Especially yung mga technical terms, make sure na sila ay nade-define as your variables, at yung mga key terms na makikita sa iyong title, dapat nade-define mo rin yan. Remember, hindi lahat ng mga technical terms na nabanggit mo sa iyong introduction at sa iyong RRL ay dinedefine dito na kung ano lang yung important variables. The terms should be arranged alphabetically from A to Z ang arrangement ng mga terms. Indentation should be applied to each term. So, sa pagsusulat ng definition of terms, naka-indent yung mismong term, then yung definition. The term should be followed with a period. So, yun yung format niya. For example, you are defining the word variable. Variable, capital V, and then period after the word variable, tas in definition. It can be underlined or not, it can be bold and italic or not, depende sa format ng inyong institution. It does not have to be lengthy, wag naman sobrang haba. As much as possible, your definition should be direct to the point. Acronym or initials should be defined clearly. Complete name should be written first, followed by the acronym or initials in open close parentheses, then the definition or meaning. So, hindi pwede na acronym lang yung nakalagay. Write first the meaning of the acronym. For example, Department of Education, and then yung acronym DepEd. Inside the open and close parentheses and then period, the definition of the Department of Education follows. Do not overflow with technical terms. As I've said, only those relevant and significant to the study should be included in the definition of terms section. Keep the definition brief and basic. You will elaborate on it more in the body of your paper. Let us now try to answer this activity. Let us read the following definition of terms and identify the errors on how it was written. So, sa unang column, nandiyan ang definition of terms, and then sa second column, yung ating answer. Let us examine first the three items. So, mean means the average score within a distribution. Item number 1, ang mali dito, hindi siya naka-indent. So, dapat indented si mean and then the definition. Number 2, median equals the center score in a distribution. Nakita natin yung error ayon sa guideline, dapat period after ng term. So, dito, equals. You just have to change equal into period. Tapos, correct na yung pagkakasulat niyan. Last, mode. So, kitang-kita ang pagkakamali, dapat nagsisimula sa capital letter. Capital letter M, mode, period, and then the definition, the most frequent score in a distribution. Let us continue answering. We still have 2 more items here. Range. The difference between the highest and lowest scores in a distribution. So, ito medyo nakakalito. Iisipin natin na yung range ay isang acronym. But actually, it is not. So, ang mali naman dito ay ang pagkaka-capitalize ng word. So, dito dapat capital R, small a, small n, small g, and small e. Since hindi naman siya acronym, maliit lamang dapat na word na range. ANOVA, a method of statistical analysis used to determine differences among the means of two or more groups on a variable. O, itong ANOVA, talagang acronym to. Ang mali dito, dapat nilagay muna analysis of variance, yung meaning ng acronym na ANOVA. And then, put ANOVA inside the open and close parentheses. Then, define the meaning of this statistical tool. Our next topic is research hypothesis. A research hypothesis is a tentative statement about the relationship between two or more variables. It is a specific and testable prediction on what you expect to happen with the variables in your study. Tinatawag din itong educated guess. Kasi tinitignan nito kung may relationship ba between an independent variable and an independent variable. Magtataka kayo, last year wala kayong pinag-aralang research hypothesis sa Practical Research 1. The reason is because sa qualitative researches, wala pong research hypothesis. Only sa quantitative researches lamang tulad ng correlational, ex post facto, quasi-experimental, and experimental researches. Mahirap bang gumawa ng isang research hypothesis? Hindi po. Kadalasan ito ay isang one-liner to two-liner statements lamang. You just have to convert your research questions into predictions. So, ano yung napipredict mo na relationship? Is there an increase or a decrease between the variables of your study? May iba't ibang types ng research hypothesis. Kung ang ibang studies walang research hypothesis, meron naman na may several hypotheses kang maaaring ma-formulate. The first type is the simple hypothesis. A simple hypothesis is a prediction of the relationship between two variables lamang, one independent variable and a single dependent variable. Kaya siya simple. For example, the higher the poverty rate in society, that is your first independent variable, the higher the number would be the out-of-school youth, the single dependent variable. So habang tumataas daw ang bilang ng mga mahihirap sa ating lipunan, tumataas din ang bilang ng mga batang hindi nakakapag-aral. A simple hypothesis. The second type is a complex hypothesis. It reflects the relationship between the independent and the dependent variable. Ang pinagkaiba nito, si complex hypothesis may contain two or more independent variable or two or more dependent variable. For example, eating more vegetables and fresh fruits leads to boost immune system and enhance blood circulation and digestion. Dalawang independent variable ang nabanggit, eating more vegetable and eating more fresh fruits. Gayun din, dalawang dependent variable ang nabanggit, boosting immune system and enhancing blood circulation, enhancing digestion. Actually, tatlo pa lang dependent variables yun. Complex hypothesis kasi complex din yung magiging result sa dami ng mga variables na involved. As you can see, these are like research questions na tinurn lang into predictions. Third type is the empirical hypothesis. An empirical hypothesis is also called as the working hypothesis. Working kasi nagbabago. So you can explain certain facts and relationships of phenomena here, but this can be changed or replaced anytime as soon as it is no longer supported or accepted based on the observation and experimentation being done. So it can go through a lot of changes. For example, plants watered every day grow faster than plants watered once a week. As you can see here, trial and error ang gagawin, which can lead to a series of findings. Maaaring may mga halaman, depende sa type of plant, na kapag once a week mo lang siyang diniligan, it grows faster than everyday mo siyang didiligan. So, it can change. That is an example of an empirical hypothesis. Fourth is the logical hypothesis. Logical hypothesis expresses explanation with limited evidence that can be verified logically. It reflects the relationship of the variables which anchored based on logical phenomena. Sometimes a logical hypothesis can be turned into an empirical hypothesis in which you have to test your theories and postulates. So dito, lumalabas yung mga hypotheses na based on theories. For example, tomato plants bear fruit faster in Earth than in Moon. Ito yung hypothesis na napakahirap i-test kung totoo. So logically speaking, with the soil and with the water that we have here on Earth, mas mabubuhay talaga ang tomato plant compared sa ground na meron ng Moon. Until we can test the soil and plant growth in Moon's ground, the evidence for this claim will be limited and the hypothesis will only remain logical. Example po yan ng logical hypothesis. Fifth type is the statistical hypothesis. A statistical hypothesis is an analysis of a portion of a population. It can be verified statistically. The variables in a statistical hypothesis can be transformed into quantifiable subvariable to assess it statistically. Masasabi natin ang isang hypothesis ay statistical kung may nakikita tayong terms such as figures, numbers, rates, statistical hypothesis yan. For example, if your research is about the psychosocial development of Kinder 3 pupils of the private and public schools in the city, you would want to examine every single K3 pupil in the city. It is not practical. Therefore, you would conduct your research using statistical hypothesis or a sample of the K3 pupil population. So here, hindi ito yung mismong example ng hypothesis but the method kung paano ginagamit yung statistical hypothesis. Note that if you would like to verify something using statistics, yan, pwedeng statistical hypothesis ang iyong i-formulate, especially kung malaki yung bilang ng iyong respondents. Number 6, null hypothesis. Ang null hypothesis, napakadali lamang i-identify. It is denoted with the symbol H and then very little o sa baba. It exists when you consider that there is no relationship between the independent and dependent variable or that there is an insufficient amount of information to claim a scientific hypothesis. As I've said, madali lang malaman kasi kadalasan ang null hypothesis, it begins with there is no significant change. So there is no significant difference, there is no significant relationship. When there is no relationship, nothing is expected or predicted to affect one of the variables either way, then that is a null hypothesis. For example, there is no significant change in my health whether I exercise every day or not. Null hypothesis po yan. Ang kabaligtaran ng null hypothesis ay ang alternative hypothesis. An alternative hypothesis is denoted with the symbol HA, minsan H1. It is an alternate statement expressed to be tested in order to generate the desired output when the empirical or working hypothesis is not accepted. In an attempt to disprove a null hypothesis, you tend to seek an alternative hypothesis. So kung may relationship man, kung may pagbabago, then maaari kang mag-predict using an alternative hypothesis. If you would like to debunk an old theory and proposing a new theory, alternative hypothesis din ang dapat mong i-formulate. For example, my health improves during the times when I sleep 8 hours a day than sleeping for 4 hours only. So, napatunayan mo na ang iyong kalusugan ay much better when you sleep 8 hours rather than 4 hours. Although, logically speaking, talaga namang kung kulang ka sa tulog, hindi yun maganda sa iyong health. The hypothesis can be classified as directional and non-directional hypothesis. When we say directional, there is a relationship and it is clear or direct in the hypothesis. Now, for example, students who are eating nutritious food have higher grades than students not having a proper meal. So, kitang-kita mo yung relationship which is direct. This shows that there is an effect between the grades and nutritious food, and the direction of effect is clear that the students got a higher grade. So, kung tumataas ang pagkain ng mga bata, I mean, tumataas ang bilang ng mga batang kumakain ng nutritious food, then tumataas din ang kanilang grades. Ganoon din kapag ka ang mga bata ay hindi kumakain ng masustansyang pagkain, bumababa ang kanilang grade. Napakalinaw ng direction, which is direct relationship. While ang non-directional naman, it is used when there is no principle involved. It is a premise that a relationship exists between two variables, may relationship but it is not clear. The direction of the effect is not specifically determined. It is a statement that reflects the association of the dependent variable to the independent variable without predicting the exact nature of the direction of the relationship. It is not specified as negative or positive. For example, there is a significant difference in the average grades between those students that have proper nutritious meal and those that do not have proper meals. This depicts that there is an effect between the average grades and nutritious food. So, maaaring ang naging resulta ng statistics ay 0.01 and below. So, there is a relationship. But it does not reflect the direction of the effect, whether it is positively or negatively affected. Hindi alam kung ito ay direct or inverse relationship. Hindi malinaw kung kapag tumataas ba ang grades, yun ba ay resulta ng pagkain ng masustansyang pagkain. Basta ang sinasabi dito, mayroong difference between the grades of those students na kumakain ng nutritious meal at ng mga hindi kumakain ng nutritious meal. Non-directional, hindi malinaw kung ano yung direction ng hypothesis. Let us now try to answer this activity. Given the following hypothesis, identify the type and direction which applies to each. So, type and direction yung ating if-figure out. Number 1, the higher the unemployment rate, the higher will be the poverty and crime rate. This is a complex type of hypothesis kasi mayroon siyang iisa lamang na independent variable which is an employment rate pero dalawa ay independent variable, yung poverty and crime rate. Samantalang ang direction naman nito ay directional. Number 2, increase the intake of food with high carbohydrate content daily leads to obesity. Number 2 is an empirical type of hypothesis. Ang direction ay directional din. Number 3, there is a significant change in my sleeping pattern when I drink milk before sleeping or do not. The type of hypothesis is alternative kasi may significant change. However, ang direction niya is non-directional, hindi malinaw kung ano yung significant change na yon. Number 4, planets revolve around the sun at diverse speeds. This is a logical type of hypothesis. Ang direction ay non-directional din. Number 5, there is no relationship between the use of social media and the attention span of students in school. No relationship, ito po ay example ng isang null hypothesis. Ang direction ay directional. Number 6, implementing a flexible working arrangement enhances job contentment of the employees. The type is simple hypothesis lamang. Ito ay directional. Number 7, sex education for high school students has no effect on the rates of teen pregnancy. Ito ay null hypothesis din kasi no effect. Ang direction ay directional. Number 8, people who value freedom and longevity are more likely to experience happiness than those who do not value their freedom and longevity. This is an example of a complex hypothesis. Ang daming variables. May freedom, longevity, and then happiness. Again, complex ang type. Ang direction ay non-directional, hindi clear. Number 9, the number of lectures attended by the senior high school students does not affect their final. Okay, since nandiyan yung the number, this is a statistical type of hypothesis. Ang direction ay directional. Number 10, if you sleep at least 6 hours a day, you will get a high score on the test than if you get less sleep. This is an example of an alternative type of hypothesis and directional siya. That's all for this session. If you found this video helpful, then please like the video, subscribe to this channel, and then also ring your bell button to get notifications. Thank you for watching!